Hey everyone, Meinke from MLive.com, joined by Justin Rogers. We've had, I don't know, 20 hours or so to digest the game, Justin, because I know neither of us have slept, so we've had about 20 hours.
Three of those were sleep, yeah.
Obviously Amir Abdullah was the big story. First team offense looked great. There's a lot of immediate reactions we had, but we've had a chance to watch the film now. Anything new stand out to you that maybe you missed live?
Yeah, after I removed the confetti from the Amir Abdullah run and really took a chance to look at some of the other players, a guy that really stood out to me, and I think I maybe undersold his performance last night in our video, is Theo Riddick. It's a guy that, I've said it, you've said it, we don't believe in him as a running back, as a ball carrier. Yeah. I thought he had some strong runs last night, and were they against first-team Jets defense? No, not really. I mean, maybe a couple of them. Most of them were against their second unit. But I saw elusiveness. I saw the ability to break tackles. I saw some speed from him that, I really still not quite sure if he possesses great speed. He's more of a quickness guy. And, of course, he's still the very gifted pass catcher of the backfield. But the more I look at the depth at the running back position, I just think the Lions are set there maybe more than anywhere else, assuming Jake Bell comes back healthy.
I wrote today that it looked to me like, at least live, that Abdullah was he was running like he was pissed off at Abdullah Mania. And, not to say, obviously they're teammates and they're good teammates and that kind of thing. It's not personal, but these guys know what's being said and these guys can see the hierarchy in practice, and he looked like a guy who's determined and a little pissed off that maybe he's getting lost in the shuffle somewhat or getting overlooked, and I liked what I saw from him. There's a lot of determination in the way he ran. I still think nothing drastic typically happens from year to year with a guy. Very rarely does a guy make a drastic career transformation from a year to a year, and at least personally, maybe with circumstance or something with an injury in front of him, sure, but Riddick was not much of a rusher last year.
Right.
We both saw that, and I just don't see him factoring in big time as a rusher this year, especially when you have Bell and Abdullah. Now, if someone gets hurt, if Bell is delayed coming back, if he misses time or is limited to open the season, or if Abdullah, being the rookie that he is, if he has problems, sure, yeah, definitely. I mean, he looks competent back there, right? It's Riddick's third year in Detroit, his second year in this offense. He should be able to do something back there, but I just don't see him making some kind of major headway in the hierarchy.
I did ask him today. I did talk to him, and I did ask, does the drafting of Abdullah, force you to raise your game, even though these guys should always be at the top of their game, always fighting for the job. But he admitted, he goes, I'd be lying to you if I said it, I said it didn't.
Yeah.
So, he's definitely trying to raise his game with that jump cut that he had where he made the linebacker miss in the backfield. I'm sure they had a fun day in the linebacker room just reviewing that tape. Yeah. But apologize to DeAndre Levy right now for saying a guy never changes from year to year. He did okay.
But it wasn't a drastic change. It was year to year to year to year to year. And then he was a good player.
All right.
But no, with Riddick, all that being said, I just need to reinforce, hell of a pass catcher. He's looked really good in camp. It's underrated because he didn't get that many snaps last year. But when he was out there, his usage was actually pretty high during last season. When he was out there, he caught, I don't have it in front of me, but quite a few balls, and important balls. He was a good player for the Lions as a pass catcher, and I think he'll be used again in that way.
I continue to compare him to Darren Sproles. And they're different players. They move differently, but Sproles was a pass catcher first in that New Orleans offense. And I think one season he caught 80, 90 balls. He did carry the ball. It wasn't a lot, but 50, 60 times maybe is more of a reasonable ballpark we can expect for Riddick if he proves he's capable of doing it, as opposed to the 10 or 15 or whatever he had last year.
Yeah. I rewatched the film this morning as well, Justin, and two things stood out to me. First, and I have to give a shout out to Jen Hammond from Fox 2, who's doing the sideline reporting for Fox Sports Detroit. She spotlighted Greg Salas before the game and said he was a player to watch. Wow. I barely knew Greg Salas was on the team. I knew he was on the team, but I'd never talked to him. He was way off my radar. She spotlighted him, and sure enough, he was the man of the night. That was pretty incredible.
Dan Orlovsky gave her a heads up.
Could be. Secondly was Laken Tomlinson. I thought he was really impressive upon watching the film. Live, I was watching some other position groups. I didn't necessarily see everything he was doing, but when I went back and I started realizing he was pretty good, and so I went back and I watched every single snap that he played. He came in late in the first quarter, left late in the fourth quarter, so a ton of action, and he was pretty good. Even when he gets the thing I liked was even when he was out of position, and that happens with rookies. His balance is so good that he can recover, and that's the thing that I like. The guy would have a half step on him, but somehow he would get into position. I liked what I saw. He looked like he made some mistakes, but like that he was very powerful and has very good balance. And I think he was better upon watching the film than I gave him credit for. Even when he made those mistakes, I thought he did a nice job of making up for them.
What was his little slogan he threw at us at the combine? Good feet or defeat, something like that. No. Yeah, I mean something I've noticed from him in camp where he needs to be better is he's a little slow out of his stance. NFL defensive ACC is a good conference, but NFL defensive tackles are lightning quick for their size. Even guys like Tyron Walker, who I've said maybe is a little slow out of his off the snap, is quick in comparison to ACC defenders. But where Tomlinson loses that initial battle, which he'll get better, but where he seems to recover quickly, seems to stay square, and seems to generally hold off his defender. So what you say you saw in the game, I've not gone back to watch Tomlinson, but it seems to mirror what I've seen from him in practice.
Two other things that jumped out to me with Tomlinson. One was he did a nice job, I thought, of getting to the second level and hitting a guy. He did that frequently. Secondly, on his pulls. And sometimes that's a slow thing for a rookie to learn, but had good feet on the pulls, and he always hit his target, it seems. And he had a couple of nice pulls and hit his man on Zach Zenner first down runs. And I mean, those are the things you lose sometimes live because you're watching Zach Zenner, right? This fan favorite. He's trying to fight for a roster spot. He's got the ball in his hands. He's rushing for a first down. Looks good, whatever. But yeah, those plays don't necessarily happen without a good block from Tomlinson. So I like that from him. I thought it was a good first step for him.
It's a little tangential, but you mentioned the pull blocks, and I, like I said, I'd watched Riddick, and he had a nice 9-yard carry. I think it was late in the first quarter, early in the second quarter, and Eric Ebron pulled and met up with Quentin Coples, who is a very good 3-4 outside linebacker, defensive end, however you want to label him. Both went to school at North Carolina, and they had probably the most violent collision I saw in that game. And Coples ended up on the ground, and Ebron was the one standing over him. I mean, what do? You just shrug. I mean, it's not what you expect in that collision, but there you go. Maybe he'll be a little bit better of a blocker this year.
Yeah, I asked Larry Warford about Tomlinson. He's like, man, he just devastated a defensive end. And so he said, Warford said he saw it live, then he saw it up on the replay. Knocked one of the defensive ends, he couldn't remember which one, but knocked one of the defensive ends right off his feet. He saw it. He's like, I'm not sure how he did, but how Tomlinson did, but I saw the guy's feet up in the air, and he's just knocking heads out there. And when I went back to the film, I tried to find the play, but I couldn't find what he was talking about. But
yeah, I mean, those guys are so similar. I mean, we've heard the comparisons. We've heard Tomlinson say he modeled his game after Warford. It's interesting watching them play in a game together because, the similarities are so much there. Talking about getting to the second level, that was a knock on Warford coming in and never ended up coming to fruition. He's been good at that since the start, very good in space, extremely strong. We've seen him, decleat some guys.
He's unbelievable.
I expect Tomlinson will take over for Manny Ramirez at some point in this camp. I've always expected that. There's no official sign that that's happening, but it'd be really strange if he was not starting in week 1.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you'll hear more and more. I think too from Larry Warford. I think he's kind of taken over for Raiola as the kind of the spokesman in the room. Sure. And I really enjoy talking to him because he doesn't give away state secrets, but he's good about talking guys up and providing some kind of insight on how guys are developing, and I appreciate that. It's nice because the offensive line is a difficult position to diagnose at this level. The game is so complicated. Everyone's so secretive about what they're trying to do. It can be hard to figure out what's actually happening, good or bad. I think Warford does a nice job of speaking for the group.
He has a colorful way of saying things like Raiola too. A little bit different, but
we quote about 10% of what he says.
Probably within good reason.
On that note, for Justin Rogers, I'm Kyle Meinke. We are MLive. Keep her here.